Scott has ruled the Missouri Compromise unconstitutional, the only way to get around that and to sort of reinvent or reestablish the Missouri Compromise is to pass a constitutional amendment. And so the Crittenden Compromise is basically a proposal that we pass a constitutional amendment reestablishing 3630 as our line above which there'll be no slavery and below which slavery would be allowed. Now, you know, Lincoln could have agreed to that because slavery would not, you know, nobody's going to have slavery in Arizona, right?
I didn't.
Yeah, just has the timer. It's going to sleep. No one's touched it. But it's not passed, right? This guy is from Kentucky or something. He's in one of the border states. He's trying to avoid civil war. You might argue that Lincoln should have taken it because those southern states where supposedly slavery was going to be allowed were, you know, they were definitely not suitable for plantation. But in any case, the Republican Party says they're not going to allow the expansion of slavery, and Lincoln stands by his principles, and he vetoes the Crittenden Compromise.
What is the Beard thesis?
The what?
What is that Beard thesis thing?
The Beard thesis?
Yeah.
We talked about that at the beginning. The North is a capitalist industrial society. The South is an agrarian feudal society. These are two separate, fundamentally different kinds of economies, and they generate different political systems and different values. You know, a lot of people will say that the Civil War is really about people who are fighting. You know, you have to ask yourself, why are people going to go out and kill other human beings? What are they defending? What are they fighting for? They're actually usually fighting not to change stuff, but to preserve stuff. They're fighting to preserve a way of life. And the Southerners are trying to, you know, it's not simply they're fighting for slavery. That's probably too crude. They're fighting for a way of life that has grown up in the South. Slavery is part of that.
For the Crittenden Compromise, is it anything below 3630? Should be like Latin America?
Yeah, it actually includes, it anticipates that the United States might have Cuba as a colony, so it includes Cuba. I don't know what else it would include, but, you know, maybe Nicaragua or something. And then the election of Abraham Lincoln. Remember, election of Abraham Lincoln is the immediate cause of the Civil War. When Abraham Lincoln is elected, before he gets to Washington to be inaugurated, several of the southern states have already seceded. Right? The secession of states has begun as soon as Lincoln is elected. Before he even goes to Washington, you know, he doesn't march into Washington. He slides in there on a secret train. The Civil War is, you know, about to break out. So the immediate spark is as soon as Lincoln's elected, Civil War, we're on. Okay, election of 1860. It's a very weird election. You've got four candidates. One of them is Abraham Lincoln, and he's a Republican, and he's the blue. And you've got a Northern Democrat. You've got a Democratic Party which is actually split, just like the Whig Party split and died. The Democratic Party is split on the issue of slavery. The Whig Party split and died earlier on, 1840s, 50s, on the issue of slavery. So here we have the Democratic Party. We have a Northern Democratic Party that's Douglas, and a Southern Democratic Party that's Breckinridge. So the green is the Southern Democrats, the red are the Northern Democrats. So the Democratic Party is their vote is being split between two separate candidates. One who is acceptable to Northern Democrats and one who is acceptable to Southern Democrats. And then you have, through the border states, you have another party, the Constitutional Union Party, that is made up, represented by a guy named Bell, who is, you know, basically in favor of the Crittenden Compromise. I think Crittenden is on his ticket. He's been running with them. And we see that running through this area here, which are going to be the border states, the contested states. Lincoln wins the election with 40% of the vote. To my knowledge, that's the lowest percentage of anybody who has ever won the election and won the Electoral College. So he comes in with a highly contested election in which he wins only 40% of the vote, but he does win the Electoral College. He does not go to the House of Representatives for a vote. But you can see that what people have been trying to avoid is we're basically having a civil war as soon as the North. Remember George Washington's farewell address: "No foreign entanglements. Watch out for sectionalism." When the North is one political party, the South is another. You're basically knocking at the door of civil war. As long as you have Democrats and Republicans that are scattered throughout North and South, you've got enough cohesion. You've got other issues like tariff barriers or things that can maybe bring different interests to bear. But once it splits like this, and even the political parties, once the political parties split themselves, we're in for deep trouble. So the Civil War, what we'll talk about is the geography of the North and the South, why the North won, and then some famous people and events, just so you can claim some basic literacy about the Civil War. Civil War. These are our border states in here. Northern states, southern states. These are basically states down here that secede prior to Lincoln's inauguration. These are states that basically secede after Lincoln's inauguration. All of these states here are slave states. So West Virginia is going to break off of Virginia in the Civil War and stay with the Union. Virginia is going to go with the South. West Virginia is a new state that's created in the Civil War. Kentucky is a slave state. It's going to stay with the Union. Missouri is a slave state. It's going to stay with the Union. Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia are slave states, and they go with the South, but they go after Fort Sumner, after the shooting starts. These people are gone when Lincoln gets elected. So this is the way that we have, you need to know for the test. I would say that you need to know what border states are. You don't know, you should be, obviously the North and the South is really easy. But you need to know what border states are. And this map, you need to realize that most of the time we refer to border states. These border states here, Tennessee, I think, some of these are going to stay with the Union. That's going to be the trick for... What? Hang on, let's see what we have here. Well, Missouri is a border state. Kentucky is a border state. West Virginia.
Can you say the border states that went into
These are
Confederacy
Union.
and then the border states that
Confederacies: Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina. I don't think you can call Virginia a border state, really. It's where the capital of the Confederacy is. But and I don't think West Virginia really counts as a border state technically either. But Kentucky and Missouri are definitely border states.
Maryland.
And Maryland, Maryland, also kind of a special case. It's a slave. Maryland is a slave state. The issue with Maryland is that Maryland is north of. Remember, part of this deal with the South earlier on is that Washington D.C. is going to be in Virginia, right? So Washington D.C. Lincoln cannot allow Maryland to go to the South because that would mean that Washington D.C., the capital of the Union, is surrounded. And that's why he establishes martial law in Maryland and goes in and withdraws habeas corpus. He basically allows himself to throw anybody in jail with no cause and hold them there for as long as he wants, sort of like Guantanamo in the United States now. It would be, it's a fundamental violation of constitutional guarantees of civil liberties, which he does also in the border states. In the border states, he sends in federal troops, and they supervise